Daf Gimel, Gimel Omer Aleph. Howard, gotta get started. Okay, we discussed the machlokes of Rav and Rabbo. The shliach who brings the get, he has said foni nechtam. Gimel 3a. So Rabbi said the reason is because they're not bikin l'shma. The sofrim, even a chutzloretz, they're not proficient in the laws of l'shma. So the Gemara had said that factually they are, but it's like a very small minority which are not. And even a mayor who's chayshlam yuto normally is concerned about the minority because it's such a small minority, he doesn't reckon with them whatsoever. So b'doraisa, the presumption was written l'shma. So therefore, that's the reason mishumaguna kilbo rabbanan, and therefore we rely on the testimony of the single shliach. Although he's an eid echad, mishumaguna kilbo rabbanan. That was how we explained Rabba. Rava says, what's the reason why I have said fon nechtam? That's what we're holding. Because normally you have to substantiate a document. Let's say you have a loan document. And the malva wants to collect, and he's not in the presence of the lover. The borrower is not present, and he goes to the estate, and he says, your father owed me the money, he presents the document. So the halacha is, the document has to be substantiated, certified, to make sure it's not a forgery. Once it's been substantiated, it's not a forgery, he could collect with the document. Okay? If you go to the estate, or you go to the lukuchos, you go to the properties that were liened, and again, the borrower is not here, because you never know, so therefore, it has to be substantiated. So the Gemara is going to conclude, midoraisa, the document is a valid document. Does not be substantiated. Does not. But since there's a concept known as lo shafkas chayv l'chol berio, that if the document does not be certified, you have dishonest people out there, they'll go to falsify the document, they'll say that so-and-so owes so much money, and they can come collect with the document. So to protect the innocent, they say before you collect with the document has to be certified, substantiated, that it's not a forgery. Midoraisa does not need kiyum, does not have to be certified. Midrabanan has to be certified.
Is that document signed by witnesses?
Signed by witnesses, but it may be forgeries.
Understood. But we're talking about
a document that's certified, that's signed by witnesses.
Validating those signatures.
Correct. They're not forgeries. So either the witnesses themselves say, yes, we signed, right, or somebody else says, yes, we recognize those signatures to be those signatures. Okay? That's called kiyum. It's kiyum. So Rabbi says the reason why the shliach has said fonei nechtam, it was written and signed before me, is because that is the equivalent of substantiating a document that is not a forgery. Because since it's from overseas, and you're not able to locate the witnesses, so we'll have a problem. Let's say the husband now should come and say it's a forgery. So if you're not able to locate the witness, so the shliach who delivers the get, he's the equivalent of two witnesses. So the Gemara says, seven lines from the top. We should need two witnesses. If the reason why the shliach is saying before nechtam is he's the equivalent of the substantiator. So when we normally substantiate documents, how many witnesses do you need? You need two. As you normally need to substantiate document, you need two. So why only is one sufficient? Okay. Now, so my answer is erechon bisurin. What do you mean erechon bisurin? I mean, factually, it's a document. It has to be substantiated. So evidently, now when the Gemara is saying erechon bisurin, the Gemara wants to differentiate between evidently a monetary document. We said, what did we say before? Why did they require two witnesses? A substantial certification of a document. Because otherwise, the person couldn't survive. Dishonest people take advantage of innocent people. They'll forge documents, they're going to collect. So therefore, to protect the innocent, you want to collect where a document has to be certified. to establish it that it's definitely not a forgery. But over here, what is it? It's Erechem Yisurin. It's not monetary. It's not a monetary issue. There's a chance. So the question, is it valid? Is it not valid? Erechem Yisurin. It's not a monetary discussion over here. Erechem Yisurin. That's how, seemingly, at this point, the Gemara wants to differentiate between a monetary document and not. I'd mentioned that normally by Shua D'Oraisa, like a motive in Mikzas, or an Eid Echot, Reuven comes to Shimon and says, you owe me $100. Kofar Akol, he denies he borrowed. And the so-called lender brings an Eid Echot. He says, I witnessed that you owe this person $100. He has to take a Shua D'Oraisa. He has to take a Torah oath. What happens if the person who the claim is against, the so-called borrower, he's not qualified to take a Shua because he had stolen? So he's not qualified to take a Shua because he's a Gazlan. So the halacha is, it's called Hipuch Shua. The oath is put upon the one who's making the claim. He swears and he collects. Why? Because if we don't put the burden of proof on the claimant, what happens? Every person who is not qualified to swear, he becomes a victim. He can be victimized by dishonest people. You go to the verses, I lent you $50. I lent you $1,000, but he borrowed 50. So if he says 50, he has a chivdo, right? He has not the obligation to swear. What happens if you don't swear? You have to pay the full amount. So every person who cannot swear is going to be victimized by that's moda bin mikzas, right? Moda mikzas, you swear, but the Torah says, oh, shavo shalem. Either you swear or you pay. The man can't swear, he has to pay. So what's going to be? So he's going to be continuously victimized. So we say to protect these kinds of people, you claim what you're saying is true, you swear. You swear and you collect. It's a shua d'Rabbanan. It's not a shua d'Oraisa. Because the only shua d'Oraisa is what's called nishba v'niftar. You swear and then you're exempt, you're absolved of payment. Okay? Cannot swear. And no, we know. If he could swear, he has to swear.
It's a rabbinic oath, but if the man should violate the oath, if he should take that rabbinic oath and it's false,
it's a Torah violation. Definitely.
So the requirement is rabbinic.
The requirement is rabbinic. Correct. We have Gemara Mitzvah, Shnei Moshe Metalus. What do we, right? We say, you swear that you have so much in the garment. What do you swear? For the same reason. Because let's say a person finds an ownerless garment. And Reuven picks it up first. Shimon says, look. And somehow he's able to rationalize it's not stealing. Because the other man, he's finding a lost article. It's not he paid for it. You know something, why should he make 100%? He'll make 50%. He grabs hold of it. So we want to discourage this. So what's the discouragement? Person may justify stealing. He's not going to lie. A false oath he's not going to take. Again, there it's a rabbinic oath. But it's the same idea. The shua is a shua d'oraisa. Once you swear, it's a Torah violation if it's false. But as a discouragement, it's rabbinical. We impose the rabbinic oath to discourage you from behaving this way. Okay? So more ask, if there's a question, if a piece of fat is a kosher fat, non-kosher fat, it depends from which part of the animal is it taken. Chelev or shuman, lo es chazik yisura. So it's not its chazik yisura, it has been established as something, there's no presumed forbidden status on it. Aval hoch es chazik yisura deishes ish. But over here, until this moment, she was a married woman. Nobody's arguing that. And based on his testimony, what is the testimony? Establishing the get to be a valid get, that will determine that she's no longer an Eshes Ish, and having Dova Shebe'erva, having Dova Shebe'erva post Mishnayim. So if that's the case, how do we rely on the testimony of a single witness?
Same logic, is it?
Same question, same as before. Gemara says, B'dinu d'b'kim shtoras nami lo liboy. Now, it's interesting. The Gemara held until this point that, this is the difference. Before we spoke with Lishma, the reason why it's nechtam, if you bring get from Dinas Hayam, because we say the Sofrim in Dinas Hayam, they were not proficient Lishma. So but the Gemara held, it was really a serious concern. The Gemara concludes, Stam Safri Dining Migma Gmiri. The average sofer, even Medina Siyam, is proficient. It's only a small minority. That's why it's only rabbinical. Here, the Gemara held, Kim Shtoros is a Doraisa. That you have to certify, substantiate a document that's a Doraisa. So if it's a Doraisa, so why should it be any different? A document has no value until it's been certified. It's been substantiated. So if that's the case, you should have to have two witnesses. On that, the Gemara says, no, even by a monetary document, B'doraisa, it's a viable document, even if it's not substantiated. Even if it's not substantiated, it's a viable document.
Two signatures on a document
Presented
in a court.
On a Torah level is a valid document. Valid. But until now, the Gemara held it's not valid. Until it's been certified substantial, it's not valid. So the Gemara asked a good question. So why could we give the document viability without two witnesses, similar to Bidi Akim Shtoros as a regular monetary document, right? We don't treat Dovashim ever differently than we treat Dovashim Mamon. So if the document there is questionable until it's been substantiated, the get also has to be substantiated. So Rish Lakish says, the Gemara says no. Bidinhu the Kim Shtoros nami lo liboy. On a Torah level, even by ordinary monetary documents, one does not need two witnesses. Gid Rish Lakish. The Omer Rish Lakish, when you have two witnesses signed on the document, on a Torah level, the presumption, it's the equivalent of what? Of witnesses being interrogated in court. That's a viable document. It's a viable document. So what does that have to be substantiated? It's purely rabbinical. It's rabbinical. So if that's the case, on a Torah level, you need no substantiation by any document. So therefore, Dovashim Erva is not any worse than Dovashim B'Momon, than a monetary document. It's only rabbinical. So once it's rabbinical, if we have reason to be more lenient in regard to a get, as the Gemara will say in a moment, so we're more lenient. And because there's an aguna issue, since we're not able to locate those witnesses, so therefore, we say one witness, the shliach is sufficient, that his testimony or her testimony is sufficient to establish it as a viable get.
Even with the loan, a man presents a loan document, the other man denies.
On a Torah level,
the loan is good.
The document is equivalent. When you present that document, it's like two witnesses testifying. You owe the what? No, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's Machlok Rishonim. It's an argument. Said Rashi, what's the concept of that witnesses on the document is considered like witnesses testifying in court? Yeah. So Rashi says, we say there's a presumption that a person is not that insolent that he's going to forge a document. I mean, how many people forge documents, right? And because of that, today things have changed. Maybe yes, maybe not. The question is why it's lochotzef. See, it's not simple. The Gemara tells over a story about the Basra, where the document was presented, even substantiated, and the one who made the claim, he whispers to the dayan, it's a forgery, even though it was substantiated. The borrower was yelling bloody murder. He says, but it's a forgery. So the dayan, how could it be forgery? We substantiated. So the so-called lender whispers in the ear of the dayan, it is, but I had a viable document. I lost it. I had this forged. How did you do such a perfect forgery? Because the witness, when he signed, he had a tremor in his hand. So you see, he explained how he did it. He put a brick on his hand. So when a person has a brick, and because of the weight, your hand shakes. So he was able to mimic the signature of the so-called witness with a tremor. So it wasn't really the curvature of the wasn't perfect. So, I mean, you could do it, but there's a principle l'chotzev finish. But how many people do this? Over there wasn't l'chotzev, because there the man claimed that he did have a vial. The whole Gemara over there discusses the concept of migu. There's a migu. If he would have remained silent, he wouldn't have had a problem because it was a certified document. But under normal circumstances, we say l'chotzev finish. Person doesn't have that degree of chutzpah, he's not that dishonest that he's going to forge a document. Okay, but there's an interesting shiloh. See, there are two aspects to this. We have a question. A document, is it valid or not? let's say it's not uncommon people forge documents. Then there's no question the document would have to be substantiated on a Torah level. Now, once it's substantiated, and we say, witnesses who signed, it's like witnesses being interrogated in court. What does that mean? We could say with certainty the loan was made. It's like witnesses testifying.
It's like the
It's like they're there or not. What does it mean? Okay. There's a Shaila, there's a Tosus in Shavuos says a Shaila. What about if you have an IOU? You have an IOU. Just has his signature IOU so much, and then afterwards, if a person has a document, a certified document, a lender, comes to the borrower and says, you owe me the money. And the borrower says he's paid. He's not believed. Why? Because the Gemara says, my boy, if you paid, what am I doing with the document? Because normally when a person pays, he takes back the document. So in that case, he's not believed. So Tosas has a question. Shavuos, what about an IOU? A person that comes with an IOU says, you owe me money. And he says, I paid. And the lender is still in possession of IOU. Do we say, my boy? Do we say, do you normally take back the IOU? Or do we say, no, there are times that a person leaves an IOU? What's the rationale? Normally, why only a certified loan are you able to collect from lukuchos, from lien properties? Because we say that if it's certified at the witnesses and there's a scribe, all this word gets out in the community, buyer beware, so before the person buys the property, he knows, he's aware there's a lien on the property. So the purchasers of the property are aware there's a lien, so they'll protect themselves. They'll buy it at a discounted rate, they'll buy it with a guarantee, whatever it is, that if the lender should collect, he's protected. What about if it's an undocumented loan? The buyer is not aware that it's liened. So because of hefsed lukuchos, because we have to protect the buyers, we say unless it's a recorded loan, a documented loan, you can't collect from lukuchos. Okay? So IOU you cannot collect from lukuchos. Because again, there are no edim, there are no witnesses. The witnesses which create the code. The witnesses cause the word gets out there in the market because it's the combination. We had a Tosis in Megillah, if you remember. Those who learn Megillah here, and remember, you need two things. You have to learn Megillah and you have to remember. Okay, it's like the Chavetz Chaim says, we say in the third parsha of Kriya Shema, it says, Risa Mosa Muschartim. That if a person has a degree of temptation, and you look at your tzitzis, it causes you to remember the mitzvah, and then you're able to restrain yourself. But he says that's only if you study the mitzvah one time. Risam you remember, but he says if you never studied the mitzvah, there's nothing to remember. So Tosas asks a question. Gemara says by Esther, Kasher Avadati Avodati. Right? Because she was a married woman. Mordechai did not divorce her. So Tosas asks a question, why did he divorce her? He should have divorced her. If he would have divorced her, she would have what? She would have been a single woman. So it wouldn't have been considered an act of adultery, so why did he divorce her? That's Tosas' question in Megillah. Right? Alec, you learn Megillah. Okay, so Tosas answers that when you write a get, you have Eidim, you have a Sofer and Eidim, and there's a chance word will get out. And it was of the utmost importance to keep the secrecy of her pedigree, that she's not Jewish, that nobody knew her pedigree at all. So he was concerned that if you write the get, word may get out. Because there's a code. So whenever you have Eidim, you have a Sofer and you have Eidim, word gets out. Somehow word gets out, therefore the buyers of the properties are protected. If they do their due diligence, ultimately they could find out, they would be aware that there's a lien. But an IOU, there is no lien. So everybody agrees with an IOU, definitely you don't collect from lien properties. Go ahead.
If the comes before Shava and you have an IOU and you don't do a principal,
You have to do a principal.
you have to do a principal. Even if it's an IOU,
Doesn't make a difference.
It's not valid yet to Rosh Hashanah.
It's not that valid. It's not valid. You're not permitted to collect. Okay.
So, Rabbi, if a man lent money and he lost his loan document, and he forged the loan document and he collected with the forgery, what has he done wrong?
He did something dishonest, but he's not a thief.
He's not a thief.
I'll give you a better case. What happens if, man, no loan document, and a person goes and seizes his debt because the borrower is a dishonest man? denies the Ever and you seize the property. What's the halacha? Or did you do something dishonest? Did nothing dishonest. He took what's rightfully yours.
There's no proof.
No, if he's caught, I mean, he'll be prosecuted. But if he's not caught, I mean, the Gemara says in Ksubis that if you have tray in a document, say that it's whatever it is, they were minors, they are two say. It's a question of the validity of the documents. It says when you have trade, you don't destroy the document. You don't destroy it. Why don't you destroy the document? Because so Rashi says, because if the claimant seizes property, you're not going to take it away from him. Because he has a base, even though it's a question. But since you have that viable document, which is questionable, I mean, it's a separate discussion of what it is. But again, he's doing nothing by seizing it, by seizing the property.
And if a woman loses her get and she manufactures a new one,
I mean, if she's done nothing wrong. Only she acted dishonestly in terms of forgery, but in terms of she's nothing. She's a single woman. I mean, there's no question.
but she doesn't have the original document.
We once
to prove it.
discussed it, cited in Ishach brings the Truma Sadeshin. Truma Sadeshin, it's an interesting responsa sefer. Truma Sadeshin was a Talmud of the Ran. He was the first Achron. The Ran was the last of the Rishonim, his first Achron. He compiled all the what we call Shal's Chuvas responsa, and every question he constructed himself because he wanted to cover the subject matter. So in that question he presented as a questioner, every aspect of the subject matter was covered in the question, and he responded to that. So they're all made up questions. Nobody actually sent the question. So there he has a shaila. I once mentioned this, that a woman, whenever she'd become pregnant, she'd always miscarry. Why would she miscarry? Because her neighbors, she would always have an ayin hara. The neighbors would somehow be envious of her, and that would cause her to have a miscarriage every time. So she had to conceal the fact that she was pregnant. So what was suggested? This was the suggestion. In those days, a woman, when she was a nida, she would wear certain type of garments, which indicate she was a nida, right? So the halacha is like this: if a man wants to have relations with his wife, and she says, "I'm a nida," it's a Gemara Ksubis, and Gemara nida, she says, "I'm a nida, I'm off limits to you," and the next day she says, "I'm not a nida. I only said that I wasn't feeling well, and I didn't want you to get upset," and she gives. This is the excuse she gives. She's believed. Of course, it's a valid reason. It's a valid reason. What about if she did an action? She wore garments that normally a leader would wear. A woman who's often wear, no excuses can help because the excuse can undo an action. Words can undo a words, but words cannot undo an action. And she's, whatever excuse she gives, because a woman wouldn't go to that length if she wasn't really a nidah. So therefore she's not believed. So here it was suggested she should wear big day nidos, she should wear these garments, so neighbors are not going to know. But factually, if she's wearing this type of garment, and let's say the Bezdin finds out that he's being intimate with his wife during this time, no, not put to death. No, it's Koris. They'll flog him.
We just had that.
Right? They'll flog him for doing it. So the Shach says, if the court catches him, they'll flog him. Because based on evidence, she's neither. But klapi shmaya, but versus God and man, reality, they both know she's not a neither. Totally permitted. So if he is intimate, he should be intimate where nobody knows he's being intimate with his wife. So the facade of nida, that's for the community, that she shouldn't miscarry. But in reality, she's not a nida. Same thing with the married woman, right? Did she do something dishonest? She did something dishonest. But if that's the only way she's able to, but is she a married woman? She's not. Actually, she received the get, so she's free to marry. Okay. So there's discussion with an IOU Tosis. He cites two sheets. Very rarely in Shas does Tosis bring Shitas Harif, Rabbeinu Alphas, because Tosis is Ashkenazi, and he doesn't cite any positions of any Sephardim. For Rabbeinu Alphas, he brings a number of times in Shas. this Tosis would argue, we question, do we say shtar biyotcha my boy? Because the person, when he only pays a debt, he only takes back the document. Is it only if they're witnesses, or even an IOU? So what's the discussion? Why does the person take something back? Does he take it back because he wants, when you take it back, the call stops? Because somehow word gets out that he took back the document, therefore the properties will go up in value? Because people will know the property is what? No longer liened to that debt? Is that the reason? Or a person normally takes a document. Normally you pay a debt, I don't want you to have any evidence that I borrowed, so he takes it back. That's the argument, whether we say shtar biyotcha my boy or not. If he says I paid and the lender is still in possession of the document, is that considered evidence that the debt was not paid? That's an argument, okay? It's an argument. So the question is, shtar biyotcha my boy, if you paid, what am I doing with the document? Okay? Or maybe there's another understanding, and there's a Reb Chaim on this. There's a halacha that aid me pied is not believed. Let's say a person testifies that he heard someone else had said that a certain event took place. So the testimony is not first-hand testimony. Anything which is not first-hand testimony is considered hearsay. Hearsay is not admissible evidence in court. It's not admissible, that kind of testimony. It's called aid me pied. Its testimony is not original. It's not original testimony. It's based on the testimony of others. That's considered hearsay. So now there's discussion. So the question is, if let's say two witnesses, they're in court and they hear the testimony of witnesses, and the court gives a decision based on that testimony, and two witnesses go and they testify, the court rules that Ruvi owes Shimon money. Is that called aid me pied? Is that called aid me pied? So definitely not. Why? Because what are they testifying? That there was a ruling, there was a verdict. The court ruled firsthand, Ruvi owes Shimon so much money. And they could testify to that. Even though the ruling, the verdict, the psak was based on testimony, but what are they testifying? They're not testifying because firstly, anything in court is not hearsay. That's firstly. Secondly, they're testifying on a psak. The psak was what? The ruling was, Ruvi owes Shimon so much money. Okay? Nobody argues that. Now, the Gemara discusses a case in Bava Kama. A person has a certified document. A Reuven goes, a third party goes and burns the document. Burns the document. So the question is, so there's a discussion, the one who destroyed the document, is he a damager? Because now the lender is not going to be able to collect the debt because this kind of borrower was not paying unless you have hard evidence that he lent you money. So as a result of that, by him destroying the document, he's not going to be able to collect. What would you say, David?
Sounds like it's a damage.
No. It's called garmi. Factually, the debt is in place. It's only the ability to collect. Understand? This is causality. I caused you that you're not able to collect. The debt is in place. The problem is the man is denying that he ever borrowed. So you needed the document to prove as evidence that you lent. So it's the discussion of garmi. It's direct cause. This cause, see, grama it's more indirect. This is directly the cause that I'm not able to collect. So there's a discussion. Garmi, because it's so direct, is that the equivalent of a damager? Or maybe you're not a damager. Okay? That's the discussion. Somebody asks a question. The witnesses who come to testify that he burnt the document, evidently they read the document. Because otherwise the man could say, I burnt a piece of paper. What do you mean? It said in the document that it cost me $10,000. How do we know? How do we know it said $10,000? It was a $10,000 debt. Document. The answer is witnesses. They read the document. Somebody asks a question. Let the witnesses write a new document. What's the problem? If the witnesses saw what was written in the document, let them write a new document. So what's the claim? What do we have to come on to the whole discussion? Is he a damager? At worst, he'll pay a scribe's fee that a new document has to be written. And the actual debt, if they saw, they have to testify that he damaged so much, the loss was so much. So if they were aware of that, let them write a new document. That's the Gemara's question. Okay? So Tosis asks a question over there. But why isn't it aid me pied? You got it? The witnesses, they saw the document. It's like seeing it's witnesses, right? They're witnesses over there. That's all. What are they testifying? It's not in court. So what are you going to say? Witnesses are signing. It's like a verdict that's been given. Okay. Let's talk now.
That's only with the original.
No, say they saw the original. They saw the original
I
document being
understand, but
burnt.
this is not the
So
original.
there's an argument among the Rishonim and Tosas and the Rosh over there. What are they testifying? Are they testifying on the verdict that when you have a document which is certified, which says Reuven or Shimon $100, $1,000, whatever the amount is, with witnesses, is the document saying Reuven or Shimon $1,000? Of course, the witnesses are the basis for the verdict. But are they testifying that there was a psak? No, they're testifying that the witnesses, they witness with witnesses testifying in court. Testifying of the information and document, it's like you see witnesses testifying in court. It's like witnesses testifying in court. Not the ruling. If we say the only reason why 8 is not valid is because outside of the court it's hearsay, see there's an argument, when Torah says, Al Pishnai maybe Miyokim Dover, testimony is only viable, is it the reason why they have to say it firsthand because it's hearsay? Or no? You have to see evidence firsthand. Has nothing to do with being hearsay or not hearsay. It has to be fact. You have to testify about fact. Testifying about testimony, that's not fact. So there's an argument when the Gemara asks the question, when they testify about the document which was certified, are they testifying about that the psak, that on the verdict, so the verdict's fact, or are they testifying about the testimony? And since the testimony in the document is the equivalent of what? Of witness testimony in court, when witness testimony in court, that's not called hearsay. That's called viable testimony. So that's not 8 right? That's the testifying on something which is not hearsay. That's the discussion over there. Okay? You understand the machlokes you've shown it. What's the difference? If I have a document and I come to collect, and it's a signed document, and the lender has the document, what is that document? If you have witnesses are testifying to Reuven or Shimon $1,000, it's not because you should have taken back the document. See, if the issue is taking back a document and not taking back a document, does a person take back an IOU as he takes back a document which is signed by witnesses? So we'll have that discussion. Does a person take it back because he's concerned about the value of his property? We don't need that. If you're of the opinion that witnesses in a viable document, it's as if they're actually living witnesses testifying. As long as the lender is in possession of the document, witnesses are saying, Reuven owes Shimon $1,000. How could you say I paid when witnesses are saying presently, Reuven owes Shimon $1,000? That's the reason why he's not believed. But what about an IOU? There are no witnesses. Just a piece of paper. It's a piece of paper. So even if you substantiate a signature, then it's not a forgery, but actually the witness is not testifying. So therefore you could say parati, there's nothing wrong. Because there, by saying I paid, it's not in contradiction to the testimony of witnesses.